Welcome to the Bladtcast. Very excited to get to catch up with my friend Nikki Bailey. Nikki, it's been a moment, as we said. I'm so glad to see you and hear from you. It's great to have you back here on the show.
It's so good to see you, Christian. It's been too long.
It's been too long, and people don't realize that you and I spent some time really in the thick of it. We did every week of Star Trek Picard season 2,
Oh my
not the
God.
seasons that people liked. No, we did season 2.
It was a special kind of torture.
I know, and it's almost like if we knew about season 3, we would have been like, all right, let's just sit this out. But it broke me a little bit, Nikki.
It did. It was rough. It was painful to endure.
Yeah, I was so thankful for Strange New Worlds because they taught me how to feel again. I was dead inside after that season of Picard, and as we talk about feelings and the Christmas time of year, the joyous holiday season, this is an idea we traded messages about way back last Christmas, but you were swamped and you've been pretty busy up until then. I'm glad I'm catching you at a moment where we can talk about my favorite Christmas special, and some would say, me being some, the greatest Christmas special ever made.
The greatest Christmas special ever made, without a
Yeah.
doubt.
And it's interesting because it's such an important part of my childhood, because there were times where we were able to afford HBO, and there were years where we weren't. But the years that we did, it was on HBO literally every day in December.
Every single day, and I watched it over and over and over. I did not care that I had just watched it the day before. I watched it again and again and again.
Yeah. So it is Christmas time. Getting to see Emmett and Ma wonder if the ice is strong enough. Yet again, I'm pretty sure they're going to be okay. And I love the characters and the tremendous music from Paul Williams. We will talk about all of these things, but I think it's important to start with the fact that it is based on a book, and the book was out of print for a while. I believe you can find it. I started first with my son, and then I've done with my daughter. I read this book over a couple nights to them every year because it's got the sweetness of the special. It doesn't have the songs, but they do actually. They reference the names of some of, like the bathing suit Grandma Otter wore. They reference that in the book. So there's some nods, but and my kids love getting to see Emmett and Ma, and I'm remembering the props that I left downstairs that I forgot to bring up here. So I'll have to try and show those off at some point. But so yeah, it's a very sweet story, and some tremendous work from the Jim Henson Company, and our friend Cam A. Egan popping in here. Emmet Otter is right up there with Charlie Brown Christmas. It's always a question as to which one we're going to watch first. And Chairman Meow shouting out the great River Bottom Nightmare Band. We'll talk about all of it.
Gotta love it.
Yeah, and as with so many things that you love from Christmas time, you kind of forget, like, oh yeah, this is really a downer at times. This is very depressing.
It is. I mean, it's based on the gift of the Magi, and there's that wonderful moment of them wanting to give each other gifts but destroying the things that they love at the same time. So it's heartbreaking. And then that Papa Otter is gone, and there's no money for Christmas presents. It is heartbreaking, but I have never in my entire life thought, oh, this is a sad story.
No, I agree with you 100%. Yes. And the fact that Ma says to him, and I haven't even watched it this year yet, but I knew I didn't need to have this conversation. Ma says to Emmett, "Oh, we don't have enough money for regular days. Not worth talking about Christmas, is it?"
Right.
And It's it's the just sort of the awareness of their situation, but they always have a song in their heart, and I think that's the important thing, Nikki.
Absolutely. If you can sing when everything is still crap, you're golden. So
Yeah, and this is, one of those specials that, again, obviously it was on HBO, and I think there's a couple of different versions of it. They had initially Kermit the Frog wasn't the narrator, and then they put Kermit the Frog in it, and then when Kermit's rights got tied up with Disney, they took Kermit out. So there's this moment in time where if I wanted to watch it, I had to watch an old VHS that I had because I'm like, well, if I need to see the version with Kermit because it just doesn't feel like the story.
yeah,
Yeah.
I tried to hook my VCR up today to our new television so I could watch the old version, and there's no HDMI to RCA connection, so I couldn't watch it. But I had forgotten that there was a version with Kermit narrating, and I would love to go back and watch that version now.
Yeah, and I think that when at one point Disney only owned some of the characters. Now they own everything Henson. So I think that I don't know for sure. And maybe somebody in our audience can tell us whether you're telling us while we're doing the show live or if you're commenting after the fact. I think if you go see it, I believe it's on Peacock now. I think it is that full version with Kermit, but I could be wrong.
It's not it's not he doesn't narrate, but he does open and close the show.
Okay, yeah. All right. Well, so that's good. As long as you still have him. Yeah, and I love the scene of when he's there at the end, he's wearing like the most 70s outfit. I said
That
it's like it's
blazer.
yeah. He's got like the bright yellow turtleneck, and it's just like, oh, it's like, Hugh Hefner on Playboy After Dark. I'm like, "Oh, this is Muppets After Dark. Look at that dapper frog. No wonder Piggy loves him as much as she does.
Oh,
But
heartbreaking.
and I mean, obviously, a story like this, it only goes as far as the characters can go, and at the cornerstone of it, of course, is Emmett and his relationship with Ma. And what I love about Ma is she doesn't take any shit from anybody. The lady that she does the laundry for, and she's like, well, it's a couple days of Christmas. It would be nice as she walks away. It's like, if you
Fell
fall
off.
off the dock. I love that. It's
That's one of those things that I don't think I noticed as a kid, but every time I watch it as an adult, I guffaw. Like it makes me holler every single time.
yeah, no, I know. It's so much fun. And there's always a charm to the Muppets. And I was firmly in the Muppet camp as a kid.
Oh,
My
absolutely.
my bedtime, I believe, got to be 8:30 whatever night the Muppet Show was on. But on the other days, I had to go to bed at 8. But I got to stay up for the Muppets, and obviously that was an important thing. And getting to see this, I mean, like if you look at some of the Christmas specials that were available in the 70s and early 80s, yeah, of course you've got your classics, you've got your Rudolphs, but people don't talk about some of the Hanna-Barbera slapped together. They're not all great, is my point, Nikki, are
Right.
they?
They're not all great. You can't go wrong with anything Muppet related. That was, growing up, I was a huge Miss Piggy fan. I had Miss Piggy sheets, a comforter, a puppet, curtains, t-shirts, a jacket. I loved anything related to the Muppets. And when Jim Henson passed, I remember watching the special they did
Yeah.
about that and sobbing because I thought to myself, if I ever have kids, they're never going to know Kermit with Jim Henson's voice. And so I love that we can still catch the old version of Kermit in this special.
Yeah, I think that goes obviously that goes a long way. One of my favorite other specials is the one that's called Muppet Family Christmas, which is from the late '80s, and this is I call it the Avengers Endgame of Muppet specials because you have your Muppet Show characters, but also the gang from Sesame Street shows up, and you also have the Fraggles from Fraggle Rock and Doc and Sprocket and Jim Henson lived a few more years after that, but there's a scene at the end where he just looks and he's like, "Oh, I like seeing everybody happy," and he has Sprocket help him with the dishes, and it's so sad to see because you're like, "Oh my god, just the joy!" And we did a whole episode of this podcast where we talked about the there's a tremendous Hulu documentary, or I think it was Hulu. Yeah, Ron Howard did it, I think, for Hulu, but maybe it's Disney Plus. It's all under the same umbrella these days, isn't it, Nikki? And
Absolutely.
yeah, and we talked to my friend Gene Beretta and his brother Bill Beretta, who is heavily involved in Muppet production for really the last 30 years, and he assumed some of Jim's characters, so he portrays them now. So it's always great to have the opportunity to visit with the core Muppet characters, but I love stories like this as well,
The
because it is a
Muppets,
fairly simple story. What were you gonna
the
say, Nikki?
Muppets are Christmas for me, though. I mean,
Yeah.
I listen to the John Denver Muppets
Yeah.
Christmas album every year. I would dress up with my Mickey, with my not Mickey, with my piggy ears every year at Christmas. So the Muppets just are Christmas as far as I'm concerned. So I love that we get to talk about it. I'm so excited to get into Emmett.
Yeah, and what obviously, like me, you see it so many times as a kid. It's ingrained in your memories, and it is an important part of for me to rewatch it every Christmas, especially now that I have kids. They know we're gonna watch it, and they'll say like, when are we, they'll be like, when are we gonna start watching Christmas specials? But at a certain point, when are we gonna watch Emmett?
Yeah.
And so they know that it's important to me, because for our visual audience, I'll show off the T-shirt that I have, which is
Oh,
basically the Abbey Road, but it is Emmett's Jug Band crossing the street there.
love
So
that.
yeah, but what do you think is, if you had to say, well, here's why it works in a way that not every Christmas special works, what do you think is the if there's one key right at the center of it that makes Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas work?
I think it's the heart of the music. Like every single song has a catchy verse or a catchy chorus that you can sing over and over, and every single song just makes you, just pulls at a heartstring, like I have an emotional response to every one. Even the River Bottom Nightmare Gang, um I, as a child, thought that was the scariest moment in
Yeah.
any television anything, and even now, like, as I'm watching it, I'm like, I get chills, like, I'm like, "Oh, they're bad boys," and I think the heart in the music is really what sells it.
Yeah, and that's obviously, as I mentioned at the top of the show, that's so much a tribute to Paul Williams, who collaborated on so many different songs and Muppet projects. But having these songs, and you have your fun songs, you have the real tearjerkers like Our World, and the River Bottom Nightmare Band is such a great presentation because it sounds like music of the era. Like if you told me, "Oh, this is a demo, it's an outtake from Deep Purple," I'd be like, "Yeah, I'm sure it is." I have no doubt in my mind.
When you watch it on Peacock with the subtitles on, it
Yeah,
says Hendrix-like music.
nice.
Yeah.
I love that. Hendrix like music. And those characters, the River Bottom gang, they're so well defined, and especially when you're a kid, they're so unlikable. you know
They're
uh,
terrifying.
they're so mean to Kermit. They steal his scarf. they're mean to the people that work at the music shop, and they're mean to each other. You
Yeah.
know, Chuck's like, "Hey, everybody, Chuck's hungry." No, I'm not hungry. I'm hungry.
hungry.
Yeah, and I just the it's the core group of Muppet performers. Emmett is Jerry Nelson. The script's written by Jerry Jewell, who does so much, and you'll hear some familiar voices. The performers, the actual Muppeteers, are one and the same. It's from the core group, and Ma Otter's voice was done after the fact, but I believe it's Dave Goles who does the actual puppeteer work. I could be wrong about that. Maybe it's Frank Oz. But I have to ask, Nikki, have you ever seen the outtakes from Emmet Otter's Jekyll
Yeah,
and
I've
Hyde?
seen them a long time ago. I haven't seen them recently, but I've seen them a long time ago.
Right. So the reason I ask is because it's before the actual voice of Ma, who I'll give credit to in a moment. I want to make sure we get to it. Marilyn Sokol is the actress's name. So Marilyn Roberts Sokol, and she provides the voice of her, in there. But she's an actress and a voice actress. She's, of course, not under the stage with Jim Henson and Jerry Nelson and everybody, actually moving the puppets around, the Muppets around. I shouldn't call them puppets because they're Muppets.
No, they are not
they're better than
puppets.
that.
They're Muppets.
They are better than that. Obviously, there's so much more. But it's. Yeah, and I think that it's worth just spending a moment or two taking a look at some of those outtakes. There's one part in particular that I think anybody who ever watches this, it's the section with that's the part that most people think of, and
You
I've
you
sort of
you
go
you
ahead.
cut out for a second there. The section with what?
Oh, it's the section when they're at the music shop, because as I'm mentioning, there's a moment where the River Bottom gang really ransacks what's going on in there, and I want to just show just how funny it is to kind of, it gives you like a little flavor of what it's like to be involved in these. So it's just this moment where the drum rolls out the front door, and it's supposed to land in a certain way, and I'll get to it in a second. Here it is.
Who are they, Ma?
Beats me. Hooligans is what they are. Probably some of those river bottom boys.
Okay, one more time, please.
You can hear how much you can hear how much Jim Henson sounds
back,
like
Jerry.
Kermit. And it is Frank Oz who is the puppeteer for
My
Ma. You
God,
can
it
hear
went
the
right in the studio floor.
Yeah.
That one was pretty good, actually. That one's not even close.
Sweet Jesus. Did you see that? Did you see that? Did you see?
So the Muppet is talking to the actual people on the set, just trying to
Hubba
get
wah. Hubba 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 wah.
Mike, we saw a little bit under your.
You okay, Emmett?
Kurt Jane? Come on, we just need a little,
Try to get it going on a.
Anyway, so you can find that there's other stuff, but anybody who's seen it remembers the part with the drum rolling by, and yeah, I can't promise that we won't look at more of those, but it's just so funny because even when you're exasperated and you're Frank Oz and Jim Henson, they don't make their characters swear. I mean, that's the raciest thing. It's like, sweet Jesus, but
and they stay in
you're-
character, like that they don't it's almost like when an actor is on set, they stay in character in a way that is just remarkable to me. Like how cute is that sweet Jesus, that is so cute. And
Yeah.
and interacting with the guy who came in to like reset the drum, like it's so cute.
I know, and you can imagine that when you work on these kind of productions, it's long days that are pretty much exactly like that. But they still have the spirit that you would want them to, and so in terms of the performers, so Jim Henson is the voice of Kermit. Harvey Beaver, which when you think about it, you can hear it. Mayor Harrison Fox and Howard Snake. Jerry Nelson is Emmett, Doc Bullfrog, Melissa Rabbit, who's part of the talent show, Stanley Weasel, and Yancey Woodchuck. So, you're pulling double, triple, quadruple duty when you work on a production like this, And,
I'm learning what all the animals were, because I don't think I ever could recognize what all the animals were.
Right. Yeah. Because I think Harvey gets referred to as a beaver at one point, but Wendell's clearly a porcupine, but it kind of stops right there.
Yeah.
You kind of look at everybody and you're like, I'm not really. I mean, Emmett's an otter because it's in the title. We
Right.
know that's what he is. So now I'm sort of talking about, getting to share this, and I shared it with my now wife. I was just like, oh, you have to watch this special, is really important to me, and she understood because it's very sweet. I don't think I'd be able to handle showing this to somebody. Like if my kids had seen it, and granted they were young the first time I showed them, if they were like, this is boring, I was like, I wouldn't be able to handle it. You know what I mean? So
I will tell you, when my partner watched it, I made her watch it when we first started dating like 6 or 7 years ago. I made her watch it and she wasn't impressed. And I understand, we're in our 40s, like it's not, you can see the strings. It's not,
Yep.
It's not, the kind of like super polished, whatever. But she made me watch Stephen Colbert's Christmas special, and I don't love that. So we traded on. So every year I watch Emmet Otter without her, and she watches Stephen Colbert without me. So
I think that's a fair exchange.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that she doesn't appreciate it, but at least she watched it. It wasn't one of those like I'm not checking that out. But
no,
yeah.
she did watch it.
Yeah, and my wife brings to the table the Chipmunks Christmas special, which I'm not gonna lie, it's not amazing, but it does have the Chipmunks Christmas song in it,
Yeah.
and June Foray, voice actress responsible for Rocky the Flying Squirrel, plays Mrs. Claus, and there's it just depends on what you grow up with, and I think this is one of those things that you realize if someone didn't have HBO in that era, they very well don't know this story.
They don't know it. Yeah.
And but that's why, especially, like now there's so much content that's out there. You can type in anything and be able to watch it within seconds. But that's why it was sometimes it was impressive as an adult, like, oh my God, somebody who knows Emmet Otter. So I think that you touched on it earlier, the Gift of the Magi, that being the story where, oh, I sold my hair to buy you a chain for your watch. Oh my gosh, I sold my watch to buy you a nice ribbon for your hair. I'm like, oh, like, why does Christmas have to be so sad, Nikki?
Oh,
I mean-
everybody's just trying to make someone else happy, and in the process screwing it. I'm just kidding.
Well, no, it does prepare you for like, oh my God, I tried my best. And and Ma just wants to get Emmet that guitar, which it looks like it's twice the size of Emmet, but I get it. He wants to learn how to play it.
With the mother of pearl inlay.
Oh my God, of course, mother of pearl
Ugh.
inlay. Yeah. And the idea that he's like, Well, I wasn't going to be able to get you a piano, but I was going to put a down payment on one. It's almost like it's so practical. Like, I don't know exactly how old these characters are, but they're kids. And I don't think he should know what a down payment is, should he, Nikki?
Well, he's clearly not mature enough to know that they'd have to continue making payments, and they don't have the money for that either. But it's the thought that counts.
Yes. No, I definitely definitely agree with that. So the there's a lot of jokes that are, as with anything with the Muppets, they're just things that you kind of wait for as a kid. She's Ma's talking and she's holding the tea kettle and she's like, where'd I put that tea kettle?
Yeah.
And it's just like you're waiting for it, and it's like it's almost like a certain part of the song. You're waiting for them to hit these beats of all these things that are so great.
One of my favorites is when Hetty comes over to use the
sewing machine.
sewing machine. She says, "I just came to borrow the sewing machine. You always borrow from me."
Yeah,
I love that one. That makes me chuckle every time because
yeah.
I've done that. I have things that I go visit that I've borrowed from other people. Yeah. So, or the other people have borrowed from me.
Yeah, it definitely felt like some of that dynamic in particular definitely probably resonated with me because it felt like my mom. It was a lot of like, it's like, oh yeah, I'm borrowing your sewing machine, so I guess I'm gonna have to let you use it when you want to. And Emmet trying to do the odd jobs, and even as a kid, the idea that he would get paid 50 cents. I was like, all right, Emmet, hold on a second. Aren't there unions in Frogtown Hollow? I mean, talk to somebody. First of all, it's child labor. Second of all, she paid you 50 cents and you got to share it with Wendell.
Yeah, 50 cents even in the 70s wasn't much money. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a comic book was 35 cents. So, really, what is he going to do with that? And, his share of the prize money was going to be $12.50. And now, as a kid, that does kind of sound like, oh my God, imagine.
Right.
Like if I had $12.50, which Star Wars vehicle would I buy? Probably half of a Millennium Falcon if I had to think about what it cost. But it's it's just the dynamic of the Emmet and his friends. I love when they're rehearsing and it's like, Mr. Big Time Conductor, it's like, hey, my brother's Washtub, we are definitely rehearsing this song again, and the one of the things that people tend to remember is that interaction when they're up in the treehouse and the River Bottom gang comes by.
Look at the birds up in the tree.
Hey, we're not birds, we're a jug band. And it's it really, and honestly, that's probably from the commercial that they would show on HBO, because not only did they show the movie every day, well, then they showed the commercial like 10, 15 times a day,
Oh, yeah.
So it was, it was all very familiar. So let's spend a little time where we talk a little bit about this, sort of again, adding to what could make this a really sad story is that, Emmett's father has passed on before this, but they remember him fondly. There's not many people who want to oil a snake these days, Nikki. That's really the problem.
When you're a snake oil salesman, you have to depend on those sales, and nobody wants to oil a snake. When I was a kid, I thought that was literal, and was like, why would anyone? I couldn't understand why anyone would oil a snake. I thought that's what made snakes shiny, is that somebody oiled them.
Well, I think you and I had the same deductive reasoning, because that's certainly what I thought. I was just like, all right, it must be like, why, and you think like, oh yeah, I guess when you see snakes on TV or like at the zoo or something, they are pretty shiny. So
someone had to oil them.
Yeah, and the notion of the Christmas branch, which is like, there's Charlie Brown gets the bad tree, but this is like, it's because I only took one branch, that tree will still be there,
There in 100 years.
100 years. Oh my gosh. And it's just the idea of just the story really it really kind of kicks off Christmas as a kid. And obviously we all have such such strong feelings for these things, obviously anything from our childhood, but talk a little bit about, we've touched on it, Nikki, just watching Emmett and Ma, who he's rowing up the river, she's delivering laundry. We talked about him getting 50 whole cents which honestly, that looks like a $15 job. That lady's fence was in such bad shape, but and I think it's what we've touched on a couple times. It's the sweetness between the two of them, right?
Yeah. When you think about it from where we are now, this was a single mom taking care of her son, and it was just the two of them against the world, and that they had such a wonderful bond that they could, singing with someone is such a sacred thing. And there's a quote that says, "He who sings prays twice." And so when you sing with someone else, it's like being in sacred communion, and it just shows that they had such a strong bond, and that they clearly they shared not just their love of each other, but a love of music, a love of pa, a love of the slide. They just had such a lovely, beautiful bond that when they could be bogged down in sadness, but they're not, and I just love that.
Yeah, it is the thing that you start to realize as you get older, is these, well, I was going to say people, these otters should be miserable, and it's like everything's so sad, but they have the song, and it's like, oh, that sounds like good rowing down the river music. And just the fun that they have, like, oh, it's cold enough to use Pa's slide, and just sliding down on the river. And I think that I can understand that Kim could watch that part. Your partner could see the strings are everywhere in that
Right.
sequence, so you really have to suspend disbelief. I mean, even as a kid, I would watch Fraggle Rock, and I'm like, but there's like a black wire like right there as her arm moves, But
you allow for those things when it's the Muppets. So yeah.
No, exactly. And so do you have we've talked about all the songs, and we can name check all of them. Is there one that for you, like, well, my favorite song from this is that, or is it is it too hard to pick?
I love them all, but I will say that I sing barbecue throughout the year.
Yes.
So in the summer, when I want barbecue, when we're having a barbecue, I sing barbecue. I swear it never fails. Like I find myself singing it over and over throughout the year. And then I think the other one that really, really gets me is When the River Meets the Sea. Like it just, and as somebody who sings, they're songs that you like. I would love to harmonize that song with someone. Like I need someone who wants to like do a duet of that song so we can do the harmonies, and they're just really beautiful. And on the Muppet Christmas album, John Denver does a cover of When the River Meets the Sea that will just make you sob. So
no, I mean, excuse me. Yeah. And obviously the songs in and of themselves are great. And there was a contemporary version of some of these songs that came out. There was an album that I'm trying to remember what year that was. I think that was 2017. Let's see. No, I'm just trying to find where it is, but and there's a version of Our World, and that's the song that Ma sings in the talent show. And it's so interesting because obviously a gifted songwriter like Paul Williams is going to have the two songs fit together, but also stripping them apart where those songs are both great. And just sort of the point that Doc Bullfrog makes at the end is like, well, I knew they needed a little something, but I guess what they needed was each other,
Yeah.
which
what's your favorite song from the show?
Yeah, so I think barbecue is way up there because I do love the idea if you don't like soul food, you don't have a soul. I just think that's a great turn of phrase. And obviously huge shout out to River Bottom Nightmare Band. I mean, that's amazing. But I do think it really comes down to the heart and soul of this special is Ain't No Hole in the Washtub. And I'm going back as a kid, just that song, just not just having a song in your heart, having it in your head, and it's really what we all need, because you got to hope there's no hole in the washtub.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
really...
I mean, just the lyrics to that. If you look to the good side, falling down's a free ride, slipping and sliding in the mud. That song just sort of illustrates the positive attitude that they had, the reason that they were able to be happy in the midst of their poverty and their loss. That they're always looking at the brighter side. So that song was just sort of like exemplifies that for them.
Yeah, and I think that that seemed to be the song that my mom takes away from the special. That when she would sing it at other times, it really is the look to the good side really makes a difference. But there's so many that are good, and it's like what I even love, the guy who sings barbecue in the talent show before them. I love that version. Barbecue. He's like, oh, thank you. Yeah, I know. You'd almost think that somebody running a talent show would make sure that people don't sign up with the same song, but I don't want to poke holes into the greatness that is Emmet Otter's Jug Band Christmas.
That's what we do when we talk about Star Trek. We're always like pointing, picking out the inconsistencies or whatever. I don't want to do that with Emmet Otter.
No. It's just that my kids have been in the talent show, and the reason you have to sign up at the first minute is because somebody might take your song.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but I mean, you want to talk about as you grow, different things about the special jump out at you. The other acts in the talent show, just how bad they are. The dancing horse that the husband and wife have to go into different dressing rooms, and then they don't actually get it back together. The jumping squirrels, and
jumping squirrels are hilarious.
Yeah. And, as a kid, I'm just like, oh, this is all amazing. But like the stage manager's like, oh, it's going to be a rough one tonight. I'm like, what do you mean? This is amazing. Oh my gosh. And
did you used to do the dance that the rabbits did?
Nikki, I'll probably be doing that in the next week or so as we watch it. And it is all those different levels of how the things work. And the fish member of the Nightmare Band, the Nightmare, just being able, when they run into them in the treehouse, he's like on a snowplow in like a fishbowl. They always fight. He's got like a tank in the back of the car.
Right.
They just always found a way for him to spit water at someone.
Yeah, and always found a way for him to be in water without being frozen. So gotta love that.
Yeah, it was really cold there too. I mean, it reminds me of growing up and just those snowy days. Which, as a little detour from Emmet, just for a moment, when you and I were trading messages earlier in the week, it seemed like we did have kind of a shared experience on the snow day. Now,
Yeah.
I did have a 9-mile lake in my town, and we did sometimes go out on the lake when it was frozen. And I think my mom was the one, my brother explained, like, if there's snowmobiles on the ice, you'll be able to walk on it. And only as a paranoid, neurotic teenager did I start to think, wait a minute, what if the snowmobiles
Right.
loosened the ice?
And who
But-
was the brave snowmobile driver who took the first ride to make sure?
Well, I think bravery comes in all shapes and sizes. Sometimes you're more brave after, a 6-pack of Bud Light, but I know what you're saying, which is always the time to operate heavy machinery on the lake. But it was interesting because, the concept of the snow day, my kids will never know it because these California kids, they don't know what it's like. And it was interesting because I was sharing with you that on a snow day, of course, it didn't mean we got to just, hang out. We would shovel the driveway, and then we would spend the day watching, depending on the day, we would watch all 3 Star Wars movies back when there were those, or keeping it on brand for people that know us from talking about Star Trek, we would watch 3 Star Trek movies, but it was 2, 3, and 4 because my mom had no patience for the motion picture,
Yeah, we did the same thing. It was my brother had a Millennium Falcon toy, and after we finished shoveling, we would also go sledding. But when we came back in, he would pull out the Millennium Falcon, sit it on the coffee table, and we would sit down under blankets with hot chocolate and watch Star Wars. And that was the day, like you just spent the whole day on it. And that was like, it's making me nostalgic for snow, even though I hate snow.
Yeah.
So,
Agreed. Yeah. We've tried to show snow to our kids. We went up to Santa's Village up in Lake Arrowhead, and the first time we went, we had a fine day at Santa's Village. The next day was going to be our sledding day. It rained so hard. There were just rivers of water everywhere. And that's when we realized, like, oh boy, they don't have a lot for kids to do up here if you can't be outside. And then when we went last year, actually, we were able to kind of go on the side of the road, and it was like, look, here's a pile of snow. You can actually pick it up. So they've still never seen it fall. And as much as there was that joy of, like, I don't have to go to school today, it just meant my back was, and I'm talking like, I'm like 10. My back was going to be killing later because of having to shovel the snow,
And there was always that you get all your layers on and then you have to go to the bathroom. So you have to take everything off again to go to the bathroom. And your mom asks you before she puts it all on, do you have to go? And you didn't at the time, but by the time you get all the layers on, you do have to go. So yeah, that's a classic snow day scenario.
Yeah, no. It's like, just like, well, also it takes so long to put everything on. It's like, well, yeah, now my bathroom status has changed. Sorry.
Absolutely.
So, and I mean, those sort of memories, not necessarily just Christmas time, but with the winter. And I think that's why, Emmet just inhabits that that fond place. Oh, Cam Egan's in the chat. Bring the family to Chicago. We'll probably have tons of snow in January. You know what, Cammy? You're not wrong. But I'm sure my kids would love it. Actually, my wife's never been to Chicago, so I just feel like if we're gonna go, maybe I don't know. Maybe we want to go in the summer. Go to a Cubs game, not just sit out there. And it is the Windy City for a reason. But I appreciate the offer from Kame and appreciate seeing there. She actually commented earlier this idea: pay no attention to the man behind the curtain, which is not a reference to Wicked, but instead the idea that, like, yeah, you see the strings, you see all these things, but I tell you, as a kid, all these characters were real. It's like you see the strings, but you don't let yourself worry about it. No,
the strings were not. I don't think I even noticed that I saw the strings until my partner pointed it out that you could see the strings. Yeah. Like my whole life, it never occurred to me to care. These were my friends. I didn't care that
Yeah.
they were controlled by strings.
And Nikki, they're still our friends.
They're
That
still
hasn't
my friends.
changed.
Absolutely.
So, we talked a little bit about the ending with suave 70s neighbor jacket. It's not neighbor jacket, but sport coat. Basically 70s sportscaster sport coat Kermit. And he talks about like, yeah, things were going to be a little bit better on the river after this. Did you ever let yourself think about like how much better their life was that they got to sing and perform and get those mashed potatoes that Wendell felt were,
Wendell.
he's a tough negotiator. Do you got mashed potatoes? Yes, we do. All right, sign me up.
I again, because I watch it every single year, every year there's some new thing that I think about. And I remember having the moment where I realized not only were they going to have more money, but they were going to make money doing something that they loved and doing it together. And I remember thinking they're living the dream. They're, I don't know how old I was when I had this realization, but I remember being like, they're doing what everybody in the world really wants, which is they're getting paid to create their art and to do it with people they love, and they get free mashed potatoes. Like there's no better arrangement anywhere. Like that would be ideal. Sign me
Yeah,
up.
I mean, I was strictly Team Wendell when it came to that because you would have only needed to pay me in mashed potatoes as well. Uh, I think that and yeah, I think that look, a lot of what the Muppets are about, it's things like that. It's putting on a show and getting to sing and dance and all that. And I do think that there is sort of that thought that they really are happy, for the first time in at least a long time. We will assume that Ma was very happy when Pa was still around. But it seems like it's been a little while, you know what I mean, since then.
Yeah.
And I apologize for sounding distracted, but I was determined to find an image of this suave 70s Kermit the Frog with
Oh, that plaid. You gotta love it.
I love that plaid. There's a family photo, but like as part of the photo shoot, it's from right around this time. There's one of just my brother and I, and it's not the same color scheme, but we are in a couple of outfits that put Kermit's to shame. Let's just say, it's very plaid, and but I tell you, by the way, the fact that the Kermit meme that goes around is him with the Lipton tea, I feel like it should be this picture. This
it
is Kermit
absolutely
kind of
should.
pontificating to us. I'm sorry, what'd you say, Nikki?
No, it absolutely should. It should be this one with the tea. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I know. It's all so great. But yeah, and I think that look, I think the lesson of so much popular fiction is well, how do you feel about hard work? Are you okay with hard work? Sure, I'm okay with hard work. Well, look what you can get. You can get to perform at the hottest the hottest restaurant on the river, and I always had a soft spot for Doc Bullfrog, I don't know.
Can I just tell you, I never understood how Doc Bullfrog was a doctor and also owned the restaurant. Like as a kid, it just blew. I couldn't understand how he could do both. Like,
Yeah.
and it wasn't until I became an adult that I was like, all right, diversify that income. Yes.
Yeah. Right. Look, he's got to earn money when the doctor's office is closed. So yeah, I think Doug Bullfrog had a very deep portfolio.
Right.
I think he's very smart with his money, and it's always fun to just think about these things, and I think that I don't know about you, but from stories as a kid, I was as long as you gave me a happily ever after, everything was going to be okay.
Yeah.
The we talked about the Wizard before. The Wizard of Oz, I can go through the flying monkeys and the scary trees as long as I know. Although, is it really happily ever after to end up back in the black and white in Kansas? So, but as a kid, it seems like okay, because you don't want to think about the idea of like being far away from home. But yeah, I guess as an adult now, I have to ask the question of like, why are you going back to Kansas?
That color world was really nice. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Why are we going back to Kansas? Exactly.
I mean, is there a lollipop guild in Kansas, or at least was there in 1939? I don't think there was, Nikki. I just, so obviously we're talking about Emmet, and you referenced the Muppets and John Denver. I talked about Muppet Family Christmas. What are some of the other specials that sort of as part of your childhood were like, oh my God, I always loved this one, and that maybe you still watch them every year, or maybe it could even be like, oh my God, I used to watch this one all the time, but I haven't seen it in a while. Are there any that come to mind like that?
Definitely the Charlie Brown Christmas. Also the Rudolph Christmas with the I don't know what kind of animation that was, where it was kind of like
the stop motion,
yeah,
the Rankin Bad, like and boy, it took me a while to realize what a jerk Santa was in that special.
Oh, and when poor Rudolph tried to cover his red nose with black coal, like, yeah, no, that's one that I haven't seen that in years. I think I might find it and watch it again. But those are probably my favorites. Trying to think what else I loved.
Yeah, I mean, those ones, and I think when we didn't have kids, I didn't necessarily watch all of them every year, but you do have to hit the A-list ones, which in this case would actually be the the Rudolphs and the Frosties, and the big ones.
Yeah.
There's one that I liked from my I guess I was an early teenager the first time this was on. I really liked the comic strips Bloom County and Outland, and so there's a penguin named Opus in that, and Opus and Bill the Cat. So there's a Christmas special that they did, and the creator of the comic strip hates it, but I always loved it so much. And last year, my son, when it was Christmas time, I was like, well, what do you want to watch first? And he wanted to watch Opus, and I'm like, oh my gosh, really?
Nice.
Yeah. So those, I guess it's like, where until a few years ago I had to watch old VHSs of them. Those are probably the ones that connected with me the most. Cami Egan's talking about, I still watch Santa Claus is Coming to Town. That one's solid. Rudolph, Year Without a Santa Claus. You got to love the Heat Miser and Snow Miser. I think they haunted some of our dreams and nightmares. Well, instead of leaving Nikki to fend with the chat while I ran downstairs, I found the picture that I sent to you last week. And this was an amazing gift that my wife found, I believe, on Etsy. And it is Emmet, Ma, and Wendell, and Charlie, and Harvey. Harvey, I think, is a muskrat, but I could be wrong. The best thing is that I have two sets of these. I have this one that you see right here, and I have a smaller one, because the Christmas that my wife ordered it, they sent the small ones, and she's like, no, I bought the big ones. So they were like, we'll just send you the big ones. So
I love that.
Yeah. And when the kids were small, they did not get close to these, but they can look at them now. Here's something from Cam Egan. We appreciate Cam Egan being in the chat and spending so much time with us. I love watching the original black and white version of Miracle on 34th Street. I've seen that once. I don't remember it that well, but I remember, it would be on TV, and I did finally watch it. I was probably in middle school by the time I finally sat down and watched It's a Wonderful Life, and yeah, it was one of those movies that was on all the time, because it was in the public domain, and then it wasn't, and I don't quite know how the rights work, but it's the stories that have some tears along the way, but have the fun, uplifting ending. I think that's what I'm always looking for.
Yeah,
Uh,
Miracle on 34th Street and It's a Wonderful Life were stories that I don't think I saw as a kid. I
yeah,
saw them as an adult, and they're great stories. I think that as a child, um, my parents kind of stuck to the cartoons with us. We didn't
yeah.
really see a lot of the live action ones, but oh, now I want to rewatch Miracle on 34th Street.
Yeah, and oh, wait a minute, hold on. George Bailey was a total a-hole. Well, he needed to see, yeah, before he sees the error of his ways, things hadn't really gone his way. But I will tell you, George Bailey, if you end up married to Donna Reed, there you shouldn't complain. All right. He had a beautiful family, and yeah, his house was old, but that house was enormous. You know, in Bedford Falls, I don't care what part of New York that is, that little piece of real estate. Yeah, that was my wife and I bonded over that fairly early on. And in the days where it was a big deal for old movies to pop up back in theaters, I remember, with one of the first few Christmases we were together, I was very excited to go and actually see it on the big screen, because these movies that are on TV, you don't necessarily ever see them on the big screen.
Yeah.
And one of the nice things about living somewhere like Los Angeles is that you do get to do that. I saw the New Beverly Theater is going to be showing Muppet Christmas Carol in a couple weekends, and I was like, we had a really busy December, but I feel like we might need to actually go and see it.
Yes.
And
I might go to see that too. That sounds great.
well, and you know what? Maybe if I go, I'll bring Emmet and the gang, and they can sit on our laps. So, yeah, it's just, I don't know what it is. I mean, I guess like even when you're a kid and your parents, it is the end of the year. Things are starting to slow down. There's no other time of the year that quite feels like this. Sure, there's Easter specials, and there were some that I liked, but you don't get excited about them. And honestly, even Halloween specials, when you're older and you're like looping in horror movies, that's a different story. But, and I mean, every year for Thanksgiving, we watch Garfield Thanksgiving, Charlie Brown Thanksgiving, and then that's it. There's nothing else for Thanksgiving,
Was Charlie Brown Thanksgiving one with the Great Pumpkin?
Well, so that's the
Halloween?
Halloween.
The Halloween one, yeah.
Yeah, no, and I know the plots to these very well because I do watch them every year. The Thanksgiving, Peppermint Patty invites herself over to Charlie Brown's house for Thanksgiving, but he's already going to his grandmother's house. And also, he's in second grade, so he doesn't know how to make food. So Snoopy helps him, and they make toast, jelly beans, pretzels, and I think they have an ice cream sundae, so I don't know why anybody would complain.
Do they also have popcorn?
Yes. You know what? They do have popcorn. Yeah.
Popcorn. I remember that.
Yeah, exactly. So, but none of these compare to our favorite Christmas specials. And I remember as an adult, there was one Christmas where I let time get away from me, and I hadn't watched Emmet, and I was like, well, I'm watching on the 26th. I can't, Yeah, I know. And I
can't miss Emmet.
And I'll tell you, Nikki, I've never let that happen again. It just happened once. So
no, you can't miss it. And there were years where I wasn't excited about Christmas and I wasn't looking forward to the holiday, but popped in it and changed everything. Like Emmet, to me, is the day that I start wearing my Christmas t-shirts, the day I start listening to Christmas carols. Exactly. I just love it. It's so good. And it never gets old. It never fails to make me smile. And I'm grateful for it. I'm really grateful that we got to grow up with Emmet Otter.
Yeah, and I love that. Well, it's gotten easier to watch it again. It was a little dicey for a few years there to be able to find it and watch it. And it's funny because you'll talk about, I hadn't thought about this in a while. You'll talk about the years where Christmas spirit might be in a little bit of a short supply. I remember 1 or 2 years, my mom was like, do we really want to? Because we always had a fake tree. Do we really want to decorate the tree this year? I was like, what are you talking about? Yes, of course. Like, what do you need me to do? Like, let me make sure this happens, And I think, putting on some songs and putting Emmet on the TV would help kind of settle down. It's like, I don't know what I was thinking. Now, as a child, I couldn't imagine asking a question like that. Now, I have never had that sentiment. But as the one who drags all the Christmas stuff out of the garage and brings it in, I at least see where my mom was coming from. I don't agree, but I'm like, oh, I kind of get I get where this is.
Yeah, my mom very early on made the Christmas tree our responsibility. So if we were going to have a Christmas tree, we had to ask for it. We had to take it out. We had to put it together and decorate it. Yeah. We never had the not doing it as an option because we were the ones who had to do it.
A famous celebrity name from the past, the great Coltrane himself, Ken TK Walter. I just keep my trees up all year, and I think there's something to be said for that. Actually, that's there's worse approaches than that. And, there would be years that we would put lights on a tree in the front yard. And I do remember there was one winter it snowed so much that the lights were on through Easter because we're just like, well, we can't get to them. We can't get them out. We're just going to leave them on. But well, I appreciate hearing from you, Ken. And I know it's birthday season for you this time of the year, and hopefully we find an excuse to get you back on the podcast soon. In terms of talking about podcasting again, Nikki, you and I have been on some text threads with our friend Flobo, and neither you nor I have done our due diligence on seeing the final season of Discovery. But I would very much like to do a retrospective on Star Trek Discovery because I feel like if I ever had the time to do a rewatch of that show, I would realize, look, there's going to be a couple of moments where I'll shake my head, but I'd realize just how much I did enjoy the show as it went along.
Yeah. I haven't finished I haven't finished it for a number of reasons, but one of them is I have this thing I do where when I don't want something to end, I don't watch it. So I know this is the last season of it. I haven't watched it yet. Partly because I don't want it to end, and partly because it's been so much time now that I'm afraid I'm going to have to go back and start from the beginning to even be able to watch the last season.
I watched one, and I the recap at the beginning of the episode, and I did this months ago. I'm like, uh-oh. I still feel like I have a lot of questions, but it's been a show with some great characters that, the characters when the show started that were not necessarily the ones that I thought I would like. And it's very rare that can happen. And I know what you're saying, though, the idea that like, we know it's the end. I think if it had just been another season and it went up, I might have been like, okay, let me try and keep tabs on it. But, the idea that it's at the end. Yeah. I don't know, somewhere within the last 20 years, I got a set of every episode of Monty Python's Flying Circus. The last 2 discs of it, I've never watched because I hate the idea that I would have seen them all. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You want to have the feeling that there's still something to look forward to. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And so there's something to be said for that, but hopefully we'll find time for that. I do believe there'll be another season of Strange New World, which, boy, that took a long time. And, for good reasons for people who work in the entertainment industry, the strikes had to happen, and it's certainly slowed down production. But boy, that show, the season, the most recent season of Strange New World ended on like a very decent sized cliffhanger. Yeah. And it's like, oh boy, they're keeping us waiting, we
just got a brand new ginormous television, so I'm really looking forward to that coming back.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I agree with you. And I'll invite myself over to watch Emmet sometime on the giant.
Please do.
Yeah. And And as always, I'll bring my friends with me right here. Well, Nikki, it's always great to get a chance to catch up with you, especially talking about one of my favorite hours of television that have ever been produced, Emmet Otter's Jug Band Christmas. And I'm definitely determined to chat with you again in 2025. Hopefully you have stretches where you're a little too busy to talk to me because you're working like you were for so much of the past year. But hopefully we're able to find time. You're on the short list of people that I already follow on Blue Sky. So if that's where you'd like people to find you, where can they continue the conversation about Emmet and Star Trek and all things Nikki Bailey?
I am at Nikki Bailey _ on all the social medias, except I don't go on Twitter anymore. So I'm on Blue Sky. Find me there.
The interesting thing about Blue Sky is it's like it looks like Twitter, but the font is slightly different. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I made a joke with somebody. It's almost like they saw the font and then they changed the Twitter font to like Times Newer Roman. You know, it's like it kind of looks the same, but it looks a little different. And I think it's. I always tell myself I would be so much happier deleting some of these things, but then I always feel like I have so many projects that I want to share and promote in all the different places. But Blue Sky seems to be, well, as the name implies, bluer skies. As always, I am Christian DMZ. Please subscribe to the Bladtcast, BLADTCAST. We will have some more Christmas themed content coming up in the weeks ahead. Sort of the other end of the extreme, I believe. We're going to follow up last year's episode on Silent Night, Deadly Night and talk about Silent Night, Deadly Night 2. And I will spend about 2 minutes making the case as to why Die Hard is a Christmas movie, and then we'll move on and just talk about the movie. Yeah, it's got two of the greatest Christmas songs of all time featured in the movie. One of them is Christmas in Hollis by Run DMC, and also the movie is set on Christmas Eve. It's when it happens. Now, again, you want to start asking real world questions like what company has their Christmas party on Christmas Eve? Okay, you can ask that question. I will not answer it, but you can ask it. In any case, so please like, subscribe, tell a friend, tell 10 friends to come on over to the Bladtcast. We'll be having fun through the end of the year. And as always, you can find me Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on the Who Are These Podcasts YouTube channel for Who Are These Broadcasters. And all that stuff you can find at Christian DMZ, wherever your media likes to be social. That's all the time we have for now. Oh, I found it. We'll see you next time on the Bladtcast.